when I came to Mysore, when I returned to Mysore, my hometown, and came here and I joined here as a faculty. And to give an introduction to Professor Ramesh, who has donned several hats in his very long and illustrious career. Firstly, he is a gold medalist from IIT and mechanical engineering, sir.
IIT gold medal. That happened by accident in IA.
And gold medalist in IIM Bangalore. So, and afterwards he had a very stellar corporate engagement with several companies, including TVS and other companies. And then it is a very successful stint in corporate, and he has a huge network of friends from corporate as well. And Professor Ramesh Venkateswaran has been an adjunct faculty member at his alma mater, that is Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. And even today he teaches. And Ramesh Venkateswaran is the chairman, board of governors, Indian Institute of Technology, Palakkad, a new IIT which has come up. And he has also headed the Lawrence Loudale School, Nilgiris, for 3 years, sir?
About 1.5 years.
About 1.5 years. I think you are also alma mater of Lawrence Loudale School. So it was more of a service giving back to the school in Lawrence Loudale, that is Ooty.
Yes.
And then we here had the privilege of him being the director at SDMIMD from 2007 to beginning of 2011. And Professor Ramesh Venkateswaran is a co-founder, chairman and volunteer at Vishwas, a society for mental health, Bangalore, and a not-for-profit organization, and that offers free counseling to people under emotional stress. In addition, now, I would like to say that one particular in Hindi they say Takya Kalam, and they say that the catchword Professor Ramesh Venkateswaran uses to describe himself is that I am a permanent salesman, and he is from the marketing and sales area where he takes pride in being a salesman. And now he has written a book. I had the privilege of reading the book, and it is more of a life experience and distilled wisdom of Professor Ramesh Venkateswaran in giving wisdom to the youth so that they may not make the same mistakes which the earlier generations did or the current generation is doing. So with these few words of introduction, I'll hand over the podium to Professor Ramesh and take you through the journey and what he wants to speak with. And do express, and there is a question and answer session at the end of this talk. However, with the permission of the speaker, in case anybody wants to interact with him, you are most welcome to interact, because his preference is to interact more with the youth, as I know. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very much. Colonel Prasad, thank you so much for the introduction. It's always a pleasure to be here, and I just need an excuse to come here. So I'm here. That's all there is to it. Much as you might have tried to convince me to do a live online program, I told Professor Parshurama, no, even if there's nobody there, it at least gives me an excuse to come over here. And I'm glad I could make it and meet a lot of old friends, new friends, and so on and so forth. So thank you very much, Professor Parshuraman, my colleagues, students, whoever is listening, whoever has got the video on but not listening, which is very common. I've learned that, that's one of my lessons I learned on online teaching. And I thought, my ego was very hurt that people were not listening to me, and I always thought I was a great faculty member and all that, And then we were doing a faculty review. We were doing a faculty review in one of the institutes I'm teaching at, when a couple of professors said one of the problems is that every time I would ask a question, they'll say, can you repeat the question, please? And I said, that's the problem I kept having, that nobody was listening to me. And whenever you asked a question, you repeat the question. So the only good feeling I had was they weren't choosing and picking on me only. They were fairly fair to all the faculty that was there. But it's always a pleasure. 12 years ago, this is the 12th annual leadership talk, I believe. And I cannot believe that 12 years ago when we started this, I was sitting in Professor Parashuraman's chair and we had an annual leadership talk or whatever. And today I am sitting as the speaker. So it's a great, I would never have believed 12 years ago that I would be a speaker. And I consider it a great privilege for a simple reason. I remember the first speaker in the series was Professor Michael Kusumano. And Professor Michael Kusumano is a distinguished professor and Deputy Dean of Sloan School of Management. So it makes me feel good that at least I'm in good company with very, very distinguished people who have come there in the last 11 years. So thank you very much. I am going to, after my talk, I was again extremely fortunate to do one of my first sessions on this book that I brought out was actually with the Alumni Association of SDMIMD. So that was a great privilege and honor itself. And immediately after that, Professor Parashuraman said, "You've got to come and do this for us." And I said, "Of course, I'm going to do this for you." So here I am, and this is the book. And interestingly, this book actually, the seed was sown in Mysore when I was the director. So let me hand over a copy of this book to Professor Parashuraman and to the library. And all I can say is to SDMIMD, the place where this book actually started. Oh, thank you so much. I was extremely fortunate also that just on Monday, I could, one of my great wishes was that I should personally hand over a copy of this book to Virendra Hegde ji and Professor Prabhakar, who means a lot to me. And I was lucky that on Monday I was in Dharmasthala and handed over the book. So I'm very, it's really an emotional moment for me more than just writing a book. So it's great to be with you all. So since Professor Parashuraman had said that let me use this as a theme, as a message to students, and as I said, it's for everybody, it's not only, it's for all of us. My book is called The Happiness Trail, A Roadmap to Success. Since it was conceived in SDMIMD Mysore, I thought I might give you a little bit of a history of how this book actually happened. And therefore, like all my strategy classes, I will divide this session into 3 parts. I always believe the first part, it's important to know why. The second part is what, and the third part is how. So my session today will be broadly divided into 3 parts. Why this book? What is the need for something like this? And how do we deal with it? So roughly in the next 40, 50 minutes, 45 minutes, I'm going to do that. So let me explain what happened. So how did this book happen? I am not a social scientist. I'm not a philosopher. I'm not a behavioral scientist. I'm a hardcore salesman. I have no doubts about it. But I also believe that from the day we are born till the day we die, we are all salespeople. I believe the minute you have one more person in your life, you're selling an idea or you're buying an idea. It doesn't matter. And I always use this in my class. The day the child is born, how does it sell the idea to the mother that I'm hungry? There is a cry. And the first sale has been made. And the mother has bought the idea. So I believe all of us are salespeople at some level or the other. And every minute of our day relating to our children, our spouse, I have to sell the idea to my son why he should study. He has to sell the idea to me as to why he need not study. And unless one of us has done a good job, there is a dissatisfaction. There's an unhappy customer. So Prasad, we are all salespeople. We don't want to acknowledge it. We don't like to recognize it because salespeople have a bad image about them. They think they push us. They try to sell you things that they don't want. And unfortunately, this profession has got a bad name.
You mean to say that some people self-help?
So in my strategy class for the last 25 years, I always ask my students, so I should be careful. I said, how many of you want to join finance? So there will be, private equity, there will be these guys putting up. I said, I hope at the end of 20 sessions and 12 weeks, I would have convinced you to do something honest in your life. Marketing. The reason is very simple. Again, I don't want to get into a marketing class, but you provoke me on this. The reason is very simple because at the end of the day, you can have any function you want, but if there is not a customer who signs on the dotted line and pays you a check, your business is a waste of time. And therefore, I believe that that is all that matters in a company. And as Peter Drucker said, the only value-added function in an organization is marketing. All others are costs. So let's not kid ourselves on this. Everybody's a salesperson. Okay. Suresh, I hope you're happy listening to me on this part. Now, I got into academics by chance, in a way, yes or no. But this book, let me just give you a few minutes of this. In 2000, I did the corporate world, and then, and this is important as to understand the context of the book and why my message and how this evolved. So I was in the corporate world doing as well as I could in the corporate world, and at a very peak period of my life when I didn't know, when I had no money in the bank, I had 3 mouths to feed. I decided that corporate world is good, but probably there was something missing in it. And again, I want a disclaimer in this. You know, I don't use case studies in my class, even though I teach strategy, because case studies are written after the event. So I can sound very wise after the event. And I can tell you I did this. And the truth is I didn't have a clue what I was doing in the last. It happened. Many things happened by chance. Many things happened by design. But the question is, I've learned a few things from that. And that's the important thing, which I think I put into into this book. But anyway, to cut a long story short, what happened is I left the corporate world at the prime with not knowing where my next meal was going to come from. I did consulting for about 15 years and so on and so forth. And then one day I get a call from my alma mater school where I studied as a 10th standard kid or 11th standard boy. And they wanted a head. It's a 160-year-old heritage school, and it was going through turmoil. And again, I took it as a salesman. And here was a heritage brand which needed to be rebuilt. There was a brand which was solid, which had done 160 years, and this brand was going down the hill, and you had to rebuild a brand. And I said, great, this is a marketing job, and I went to the school. So that was my first active association on a full-time basis with students. At IIM, I'm a faculty, as a visiting faculty, I interact a lot with students, but you know, it's all limited to daytime and 6 hours and all that. This is a full residential school with 800 children aged 8 to 18. So it's got all the challenges of dealing with an 8-year-old kid and dealing with an 18-year-old adolescent and co-educational. So, you know, families can't handle 2 children at home. We have to handle 800 of them. And we have to handle 800 of them where the families send them to us. So you can imagine the other challenge. But it was a fascinating experience, and probably I'm just lucky that I got it. For whatever reason, I left that place after 15, 16 months. But it gave me insight into the lives of young people on a 24/7 basis. The only 24/7 life I had seen is my own son and daughter. But here I saw it of 800 people of very, very different age groups, background, and so on. I was sitting and I said, enough of all this, and I'm going to do my own little bit of teaching and pondering, when I got a call from Dharmasthala, and I was just talking to Professor Parshuraman today. If there's one person you can't say no to, there is a gentleman in Dharmasthala called Sri Dr. Virendra Hegadeji. And he is an amazing person, absolutely remarkable person. If there's any one living human being I can say with unconditional respect I have, it is this Hegadeji. And I told him, no, sir, this is not a job for me. I left my school because of problems I had. And he's the chairman of the board. And I said, I left the school because of the chairman, and I don't like committees. He says, but you come to Mysore, try it out. Let us see what happens. You know, in his very calm, quiet, soothing manner. And I found myself here for 4 years. So that got me in touch with another group of people who were adults and who were at the threshold of moving out into the world. So I saw a group of people coming into the world, and I saw people going out into the world. And during this period, 2008, if you remember, and the other thing I saw, what happens is, management schools, we keep saying a whole lot of things. And when there is a shock in the world, we will all go back and start talking about what are we doing, what is education doing, and so on and so forth. This happened in 2000, roughly 2000, when the Enron scam hit the world. Then all the people went from the Harvards to the MITs to the Yales, and we must build values, we must do this, we must do that, and a whole lot of stuff. And then nothing happens till 2008, when the subprime crisis hit the ceiling, and there was chaos. Companies closed down, people were left with nothing. unemployed and a whole lot of things. And again, we went back to what should we do and all. And I was the director of the place over here in 2007 when I came. And I remember having a chat with my faculty colleagues, and I said, what do we do? Dharmasthala itself is a very deeply rooted institution. And here we are supposedly teaching people. And I said, how do we build things like values and things like that? It's tough and it's not our mandate. But at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? So at that time, I promised myself, I don't know, and I think many of my faculty colleagues also confirmed that they would do it. I don't know if it happens or not, but I do this even now from 2007 to 2022. My last lecture on strategy class is actually today the theme of this book. So I said, let us spend one session in our 20 sessions discussing issues of values, ethics, morals, complications in the context of your subject, whether it is behavioral science, whether it is marketing, whether it's finance, whether it's operations, whatever it is. And that was when the seed for this book started. Book came much later, but I started building in this what I call the last lecture or the final lecture. And I would start talking about this, and even today I do this as my 20th session at the institutes I teach. And I teach a course called PSM, Product Strategy and Management. And I call this course also, the last session I also say is PSM, because I don't want to run foul of the administration of the institute. You know, I can't be my subject is not philosophy, my subject is not moral science. So I don't deviate from it, and I say it's part of strategy. And this is really how the book came about. And finally, the book, how it happened is about 7 years ago, one of my class. So I would do this. In fact, I don't know if Prasad knows that. I'm sure you might know, but you have forgotten. I actually got a film and I would make this a part of my induction program. It's a film I saw as a schoolboy. And 35 years later, it had made an impact on me. I showed it in the school I was in. And we would have a discussion on this at the end of it. Was the first year induction. I remember sitting in the auditorium with 180 students or 120 students doing Man for All Seasons. I would ask them to write a one-pager and submit it to me. And then we would have a discussion on that book, on what are the role of values, what's the role of things, what do you understand, what are the pros and cons, how will it work in the corporate world, how will it work in your life. And it was just a trigger to discuss this. So I still do this, as I said, even now. And about 5-7 years ago, a classmate of mine from IIM one day sent a random mail in our group and said, hey, you know something, we're all getting old. We're all going on in age. Now we have children only, we have grandchildren. And she said, and in fact, it's very interesting because when I wrote this book, she said, I don't even remember sending this mail. And I said, Vasanta, you're the reason this book has come. And she says, really, what did I do? And I said, this is one. She said, what are the 5 things you will leave behind for your grandchildren to help them lead a meaningful and happy life? And I didn't worry about it too much because, email groups are full of junk most of the time. And when you reach my age, and all my group is 65 to 70, all of us have an opinion. And when 60 people have opinions, you know where it lands up. It lands up nowhere. And therefore, I had stopped reading all these things. But that mail, like the Man for All Seasons 35 years earlier, this mail stuck in my head. And one day I said, hey, wait a minute. What have I been talking to students for the last 12, 15 years? From 2005 to 2015 or 16 or 17. And I said, let me put this together. And that is really the genesis of this book, which has happened. And therefore, I asked myself, what was happening in the world today? And why is it relevant? The book is relevant because, today we are living in a very paradoxical world. Students, if you're listening to me, you are all living in a paradoxical world. Things have improved phenomenally in the last 30, 40, 50 years, maybe 10, 15 years, even more. But from the day we are born, we are in a never-ending race to perform. Your child, when you're born, the first thing your parents want to do is get you a good nursery. a kindergarten. From the kindergarten, you want to get into a good school. Great, you got into a good school. Now the school is not relevant. You want to get good grades. Then you come to your school leaving, CBSE. I want a good grade. Why do I want a good grade? So that I can get into a good college. Why do I want to get into a good college? So that I can get into a good job. Why do I want to get a good job? Because I can get money, I can get comfort, I can get... So you see, what I realized was that we are constantly chasing something from the day we are born. And the unfortunate reality in our, at least in India, I can see is for the first 15 years of this life, this race is being run by my parents. They are running the race. You don't even know who's running the race. The parents are as worried and stressed out about you as you are. In fact, you are more stressed out because the parents pass on that stress to you. Parents, you, and so on and so forth. So I started asking, what are we doing? And because each of this became what we call a measure of success. I got into this school, I'm successful. I got these grades, I'm successful. I got 99% school leaving, I'm successful. I got into this college, success. So I found that we were all looking at measures of success. We were chasing success. But it was very ironical. This is what hit me. And as I said, I am not a sociologist. I have nothing. I mean, I'm just a simple salesman. But what struck me was, and as you look at it, the day you achieve that success is no longer relevant. It's irrelevant because the day I got into that school, it doesn't matter. I now have to worry about tomorrow. So we are constantly chasing a goalpost which is moving. And why am I chasing this goalpost? Because why do I want this success? Why do I want this good school? Why do I want high grades? Why do I want a good college? Because at the bottom line, I believe that this will make me happy. I believe that this is going to make me happy. So I started analyzing and I said, wait a minute, my ultimate goal is not success. My ultimate goal is happiness. I feel success, these metrics will lead me to happiness. And therefore, there is a form which says success equal to happiness. If I am successful, I will be happy. But when I look at success people who kill themselves, antidepressants are the largest selling drugs in the world, Prozacs of this world, multi-billion-dollar. Who takes antidepressants? Not the poor, the rich people take it. Divorces are going up. Everything is going up. And therefore, I realized success is not necessarily equal to happiness. And therefore, what I suggested was, and this is the premise of this book, I said, maybe I need to rephrase myself and say, if I am happy, I am successful. And therefore, work towards happiness. And if I've got happiness, I am successful because ultimately my goal was happiness and not success. Think about it. I got into the college. It's irrelevant now. It doesn't matter that you are in this college. You could be in an IIT, you could be in a Harvard, you could be in Yale, you could be in anywhere. Now the question is, what next are you going to do tomorrow? The fact that you're in this college is of no relevance. I got into this job, so what? Now I have to worry about it. I wanted this prize job. I got this prize job. I'm extremely happy till I learned that my classmate has got a 10% higher salary in the same job. And he had a GPA 2.2 less. I'm no longer happy. What I was aiming for, I got it. And now you realize that success is never absolute. It's always relative. And I realized that if you don't define success for yourself, you're only doomed to be unhappy. And this is why is this important for this generation I'm coming to. So the point I'm trying to make is I think it's important for us to do this because after that, which path you take is very relevant. Whether you choose my path or somebody else's path is not important for me. The important thing is what am I seeking? What am I trying to achieve? And this is the paradox in today's world. More GDP, less poverty, more income, more technology, more comforts, more physical comforts, less happiness, more stress. And this is by numbers. I mean, the little bit of data I have given over there, it's not my numbers, it's not even hearsay, it's purely. So what I realized is the jargon I learned while doing this book was, we are constantly living in a life on a hedonic treadmill. We are on a treadmill of hedonism. And every time you are trying to achieve something, the day you achieve it, that achievement is irrelevant. It's gone. So what I realized was all these successes, So I started defining a few words. All these things, what I feel at the end of achieving a goal is not true happiness, it's pleasure, it's joy, it's a satisfaction, which is very temporary. Because that joy gets it. I got my BMW, it's okay, I got it, now I want the Audi. Or I got a low-end BMW, I now want the high-end BMW. I got a 3-bedroom apartment I was very desperate for, I got it, now I want it in that locality, in this building. So we are on this hedonic treadmill, and I believe that if you're not careful about this, data, numbers, everything shows that we are in trouble. Now, why am I luckier than all of you young people? We'll talk about that. So I just want to set the context for this, and therefore I say, people, whenever you talk about life, happiness, values, this, that, immediately you think of 3-4 things. Either you think of a Bhagavad Gita, a Quran, a Bible, those kinds of things. Or you think of a Socrates, a Vivekananda, an XY, philosophers, thinkers, nothing. So that is what I call the wisdom of the ages. That is wisdom which has come down from the ages, which we all want to use. But my session and my book is what I call the wisdom of age, just growing old. So there is no S in the ages. It's just my own learnings and putting together in a manner that I think was relevant to this. So this is the first part, the context of why. So let's look at what is happening. So Prasad, you said if somebody wants to interrupt and ask a question, you want to do that, or shall I continue?
Yes, I'll ask, sir. Our students, in case anyone of you want
to continue, so that I can, otherwise, they may preempt me. Something I'm going to say 15 minutes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah. So you see, I'm a salesman. Because you set expectations, I have to clarify those expectations. Otherwise, they'll say, this fellow came, spoke for 45 minutes, didn't give us a chance. When Colonel Prasad said, you can ask questions. You've got to be careful about this. Yeah. So let's look at what is happening in the world around us. And what is the world that you and I are living in today? And this world that you are living in today is very different from the world we grew up in. So I'm just going to give you a quick point. And it's very ironical and paradoxical. I start my strategy class in marketing with 3 slides, and I end the strategy class with the same 3 slides in the context of values. And I tell my students, I'm going to start this, you're going to see this on the 20th session. And of course, like all good students, you won't have a clue that you saw it 12 weeks early. You've forgotten it. But I have to remind them. But very quickly, what is happening in the world around us? And if I look at it from a pure corporate context, we are living in a world of competition. We are living in a world of brands. We are living in a world of intense competition. You go to a supermarket, shelves and shelves of products. Each one is as good as another. You go to buy a car, you go to buy a mobile phone. Do we say a Honda is better than a Toyota or worse than a Toyota? Is a BMW better than an Audi? Is a P&G product worse or better than a Lever's product? Is a Dell computer worse than a Samsung? We are not. So we are living in a world of intense competition. The second thing we are living in is we are living in a world which is not necessarily fair. I use a lot of sports examples because sports is a great word because it's the world of competition and it's the world of big bucks. So I use the sports example, and any of you, if you watch the Australian tennis is the best example. In a Grand Slam tournament, the winner gets exactly double the prize money as a runner-up. So if the winner gets $2 million, the runner-up gets $1 million. And interestingly, I've tracked this for the last 20 years. You will see the number of points won by the winner and runner-up could be as low as 1 in 200 points played. So when I ask my class to convert it into mathematical metrics, what is the difference between the winner and the runner-up? It is 1 on 200 or 1 on 300, which is 0.05%. And this is, you can track it on anything. For a 0.05%, the winner gets 2x the money. It doesn't seem logical, but this is the world you're living in. And you may not like it, you may not accept it, but we need to live with it. So I tell them we are living in a very competitive world. We are living in an extremely, possibly unfair world, illogical world. And the third thing is, if you look at sports again, I just looked at Kohli and Dhoni's numbers and Federer and thing. Typically in the world of big bucks of sports, a sportsman gets in his annual earnings, 10% is from prize money, 90% is from endorsements. About 80 to 90% is from endorsements, 10 to 15% is from prize money. But when do you get the endorsements? You get the endorsements only when you win tournaments. And therefore, there is a pressure to win. And this is the same thing in the corporate world, in our business world, in our personal lives. There is a pressure to win. And in this race to win, we start doing things which may not be the best thing for us. And the rest of my book talks about all this. But I'd summarize this by saying, in today's world, and I talk to graduates like all of you listening, I said, you are as good or as bad as anybody. And people say, I am IIT, I said, I'm just lucky. I mean, there are thousands of people who are as good as I am, better than I am. On that particular day, I got selected, period. There's nothing more or nothing less than that. And after that, getting into an IIT or an IIM was no guarantee for any. I'm still fighting with everybody. And today the challenge is you're no longer fighting with a person from your city or state. You're fighting, not even your country. You come out of a college, you come out of a job, you're fighting with people from Tokyo to Boston. And therefore, there is a huge pressure to perform. There's a huge pressure to conform. And in this race to perform, in this race to do things, we end up somewhere where we didn't want to be. And that is my learning I've had over the last 25, 30 years. And especially because I started spending a lot of time with young people. And I said I was lucky, I was able to see them in this 24/7 environment, which is very different from a day school. So what I call now is, today the problem is the generation, nobody wants to use a staircase. We all want to use the elevator. We want to get to the top fast. None of us want to use a staircase. And sometimes when you walk up the staircase, the journey is fun because you see many interesting things on the staircase. But we lose out on the fun because we just get to the top, and you have lost the fun of the journey. I can link it to golf because I play a lot of golf, and in golf you can walk or you can take a buggy. And I say I never take a buggy because the joy of golf is in hitting a ball and walking to the ball. Because as you're walking to the ball, you start thinking of your next shot. You get a perspective of the next shot. You get a 3D view of what you're going to do, as opposed to just arriving at the ball and trying to do the shot. So I believe that this is important. Now, why is this important for this generation? Is because when you take the elevator rather than the stairs, you probably end up on a floor that you didn't want to be on. See, when you're going up the stairs, you know on each floor what is there, and therefore you can go up or down. Sometimes you go to the 8th and decide I have to come to the 6th, but you go to the 6th and I realize I still have to go to the 8th. You don't know. Now, why is this important for this generation? And this is for me the most important thing. People like me, Parshuram is a little younger to me, but we are all roughly the same generation. We grew up in a world where change was very, very slow. Change happened in 20 years, 30 years. Yeah, my parents, if they owned a car at all, they didn't own a car for a long time. But when they did own a car, it was the same car that was owned for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. Or my grandparents and parents, they had the same refrigerator, the same almara, the same thing. And we were proud of it. Today, children, if you have the same refrigerator for 4 years, they're wondering why you haven't changed your refrigerator, why you haven't changed your car. Today, we are living in a very, very fast-moving world. So I like to draw the analogy of a stream. We were on a gently flowing stream. Our life was on a very gently flowing stream. And the stream was also not deep. So, you could never lose your journey. You would go a little bit here, a little bit there, but very, very light stream. At best, if the boat overturned, you will fall in 6 inches of water, you will come back and sit on this and move. You went to a bag, okay, let's go back. The point I make is you will never get lost in your life. Today's generation, I say, is living in what I call whitewater rafting. You're running through a rapids. You're running through a whole thing. There's waterfalls, there's this, there's a whole lot of stuff. And therefore, today, navigating your life needs a lot more of competence, skills, thinking, and strategy than what we needed. We didn't need it because nothing could happen to us that can upset our lives overnight. You look at the pandemic today. One thing somewhere, I remember when was that Iceland volcano? Maybe 12, 15 years ago? Maybe 12. One volcano blew up in Iceland and there was no flight over Europe. One incident, the world is so interconnected that you're no longer isolated. You're no longer isolated. And therefore, the trauma of change is phenomenal. The impact of any small incident anywhere in the world hits everybody else. And therefore, we are living in a very, very, very turbulent. And that's why I'm saying, if you are not clear in your rafting, you end up on a bank and you end up somewhere and you wonder, what am I doing over here? What am I doing over here? This is why it's important. This is very important. 2007 was when a smartphone came. 2007, we were all adults. But today, none of us can live without a smartphone. Middle of the night, before going to sleep, after going to sleep, middle of the night, I'm seeing people sending messages at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I looked up to wake up in the morning. If you're not conscious about this, we are in trouble. We are already in trouble. That's not a point. We are in more trouble. And the generation I'm talking to, you're in serious trouble. Don't fool yourselves with this. The data, the statistics, enough of it available on the web. So you need to navigate your life very, very clearly. So the point I'm trying to make is that, are we clear about where we want to go? Are we clear about what do I really want to achieve? Because if I don't do that, as I said, it's like whitewater rafting. You will either capsize, which is happening to many people. I joke about this in my class, but I'm serious when I talk about this. My generation, the potential threat of heart attack was about 60 to 65. And I would always joke saying, good, I've passed that threshold limit. I'm safe. 65 came to 55, 55 came to 45. Today you read a newspaper, it's 30 to 35. And I tell my class, can you imagine the flight when you meet for your 15th reunion? What it's going to look like? It's madness. And this is all brought upon it by us. It's not given by God or some supernatural being. And that is why this generation needs to be worried about it. You need to be worried about it. So the point is, this came and brought me to this so-called roadmap that I'm giving. So I say we need a roadmap for my whitewater rafting, and that's how this 5 I's came up. 5 came up because my friend had suggested 5, and I said, okay, let's work with 5. And I said, in a journey, what do we need? People like us, we grew up with a compass. Today's world is about a GPS. Now, what is the difference between a compass and a GPS? A compass is agnostic to your position. It only tells you where north is. It doesn't know where you are. It doesn't care where you are. It tells you what is the north. But as the GPS to work needs 2 inputs. It not only needs to know where you want to go, it must also know your current location. And this is what I mean. Do I know where I am? And why is this important? I will share this with you in the next few minutes or seconds. Why is this important? So I say that, am I navigating my journey? It's not enough to know where I want to go. I don't believe it. It is good to know where you want to go. But I think we also need to take stock of where I am. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my likes? What are my dislikes? I need to know this. And this is why I tell my class why I call it PSM. We spend all our lives doing strategy and mission statements for our employers. And we don't spend a minute doing it for ourselves. And 10 years down the road, you land up somewhere and say, what am I doing over here? So that is the reason why. So the GPS, so what does the GPS do? The GPS is very simple. It says, okay, I know you are here. I know you want to go there. And then what does the GPS do? The GPS gives you alternate ways of getting there. It doesn't say there is only one way of getting. So that's why my book is don't say spirituality or yoga or meditation or walking. So these are things you think about it and do it in the manner you want to do it. You do it in the manner you want to do it. I believe these are neutral. I'll explain that to you just. And what does the GPS do? I like to go there, but as I'm going there, the GPS says, wait a minute, there is a roadblock. But you could still reach it in these ways. That's the thinking you need to do. I got there is a roadblock. Life is not always comfortable. And life, unfortunately, is like an Indian road. What is an Indian road? There is never a road sign where there is a diversion. The road sign is always after the turn. When I did my last session last week, I was going to their office, and it's amazing in Electronic City in Bangalore, high tech, all the I know how many $1 billion are there. There is a crucial fork, and I didn't know which road to take. And after I cross it, it tells me go there. And there's no other place I can go in any case because there is no other road. But life is like that. You don't know. Nobody tells you which is the right. And this is the reality. And therefore, are you in control? Are you in touch with yourself? So this is where it is. So it also tells you that. And the last thing I want to tell you all before I get into my GPS. Why do I say it's important to know where you are? Because the reality is your location keeps changing as you go along in life. What I wanted in 20 is not necessarily the same thing I want in 40 because I'm not the same person anymore. Only my name and my passport and Aadhaar is the same. I am not the same. As a bachelor, I have certain things. As a young person dating somebody, my life's perspective changes. As a young married man, my life's perspective changes. As a father of 2 young children, it's one. As a father of teenage children, it's one. As a grandparent, it's completely different. You need to recalibrate yourself every time. So it's not enough to fix a location. And that's why what happens is I had a dream at age 25. I reach something at 50 and then I'm in a mess because I'm saying, what did I do here? Because at 40 and 50, I've changed my destination, but I've not changed my GPS roadmap. And therefore I land up somewhere which I didn't want to be. And we don't think about this. It doesn't even happen. Why am I doing this? What am I doing? How many parents, is this what I brought up my children for? Look at what happened. Is this what I wanted money for? And that, thanks to that, the medical companies are doing more in business. Simple. So this is my message to the younger generation. As I said, this is what I want. And this brought in mind. So that's what I'm saying. GPS is about knowing where you are. Important to know your position keeps changing periodically and therefore keep recalibrating yourself. Whether you do it in 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, that's your problem. And then I come out with this, my 5 I's. Now, I teach in a management school. I don't even have a PhD. So I have to look intelligent in front of my academic colleagues, all the PhDs. So in management school, when you come out with any theory, it's always 3W, 4H, 5Ps, 6W. So I said, let me at least look intelligent and come out with 5 Is. So I have my 5 Is. I also understand it's easier to do. So let me quickly run through the 5 Is. And these 5 Is could be 6 Is, it could be 5 Ps, it could be 10 something, it doesn't matter. I believe that these are fairly neutral. I've thought about this. In fact, the first I is what my classes started in SDMIMD, the man for all seasons. But then my classmate Vasanta added the 4 or 5 things, so I expanded it. So the other good thing about management people, they can expand anything into anything, to fill up space and time. They're brilliant in this. And actually make sense and look intelligent. So this is what I managed to do. The 5 Is are, in my view, fairly neutral. It is again, irrespective of how you define success. That's the point I want to make. So I've seen books, work your way to success and fill your bank balance. Work your way to success and reduce your weight. Do success. I said, no, it is happiness, not through weight reduction, happiness, not through meditation, happiness, not through anything. Happiness as you define your happiness, period. Whichever way you want to define it. So this is where it came, I want to say. And this is why I say the 5 Is are fairly neutral, irrespective of whether I want $1 billion in the bank, or I want to be a best painter, I want to be a lovely mother, or I want to be the best carpenter. It doesn't matter. Because these are about yourself. These are about giving you personal gratification. So what I learned was everything that you get when you achieve a goal is not happiness. It is pleasure, it is joy, it is momentary, transitory satisfaction. Happiness is something which is very personal and long-lasting. So for me, these are the 5 I's. And when I left IIM with this gold medal that you say, Prasad, by the way, I would always be called for the induction program of the new IIM students for 2 reasons. So I used to be flattered in the first, second year, but after that I didn't, it hits you that that it could be other reasons. So I would joke to the students in the first week, first day, first show kind of stuff. And I said, there are really only 2 reasons why I'm called. They may say, I'll gold medal and all that. But 2 reasons. One is I live next door, so no traffic jam can stop me from coming on time. Bannerghatta Road in Bangalore, you can stop for hours. So there is no way this induction will not start on time because I can walk now. I have no excuses. And the second is they put me in front of you to say I got a gold medal, to say anything is possible in this institute. Okay? So don't lose hope. So this is the truth, and there's no other reason why I'm called away. But when I left IIM and I joined the company, I had this brilliant boss, very tough man and extremely wonderful leader. And one day he told me, why I'm saying this is not, I'm not prescribing anything. I'm not saying you must do this or you must do that. And I'm saying think about these things and you decide, but these cannot work against you. I have another standard phrase in my classes. Why I call it my Chyawanprash solution. So what is Chyawanprash? Chyawanprash, if you have it, if you eat it, it won't do you harm. If you're lucky, it will do you good. But it can never do you harm. So treat it like a Chyawanprash and look at it. So this boss told me, he said, I want a report also. I said, sir, it's going to take me time. Is that? He says, Ramesh, don't tell me about time. He says, what do you think is the job of a manager? I said, he has to do strategy. A manager is like a chartwala. So I said, what? He says, chartwala. Who makes charts, really and funny. I said, what do you mean, sir? He says, when you go to a chartwala and you go to a big chartwala, Haldiram and all that, how does he give you a menu card? How many items are there on the menu? I said, about 100, 250, 75, whatever. He said, I said, how many ingredients does he have actually on his table? I said, about 8, 9, 10. He says, that's it. He says the chartwala skill is not in having 100 ingredients. It's in knowing what each ingredient can do and how much of each ingredient you want to put into each recipe. And he says, as managers, we have only so much input. Your challenge is to know what input you want to know when. What is relevant, what is not relevant. How do you mix them together and make this chart as a report? That was one of the most brilliant pieces of insight I ever got from somebody. And I realized today, I tell them, it's not about collecting data, it's about what data do you want and how do you deal with data. In today's world, you're talking about that's a separate subject, I won't get into that. So let's go to the first I for me is, and this is again as a marketing person, I think it comes from the man from season. It's the first I for me is integrity. Integrity. Who am I? It defines me. So now I know the standard definition for integrity is what you do when people are not watching and so on and so forth. And I am not even saying, people ask me, so you're saying I should be honest? No. I'm saying be clear. I'm saying if you're dishonest and you're happy with it, continue doing it. But are you clear I'm okay with it? Does it allow you to go to sleep happily and get up happy? I'm not here, I'm not for a moment, it's not a moral science class. I'm not saying you should or you should not do so. I'm not saying you shouldn't cheat, I'm not saying you should cheat. I'm saying do whatever you want and be clear about what you do, so that you are at peace with yourself. And for me, integrity is about knowing, but why is this important? It's in my last chapter in the book. It's because I told you, when you come to those folks in the life, you will have to choose paths. And you don't have a GPS. Your integrity is your GPS. That tells you which path I need to follow. Because in life, it's not about choosing right and wrong. Right and wrong is easy to handle. I choose the wrong, knowing it's wrong. So there is a brilliant model on this by a person called Rushmore Kitford. I talked about it in the book. When you choose between right and wrong, you're succumbing to temptation. It's called moral temptation. But the challenge in life is when you have to choose between right and right. And that is what we call ethical dilemmas. And when you are in ethical dilemmas, it's very important to know who you are. So, and it's between right and right. Multinational companies, the whole market wants fairness cream because every woman wants to be fair. But it's wrong to pile it on. You believe it's the wrong thing to do. But the company says this is what you need to do. Now, do you owe your responsibility to the company or do you owe your responsibility to your conscience? It's only you who can decide. No one else can help you. G.R. Vishwanath calls back somebody, I got it in my book. Somebody calls back a player and says, you are not out. The umpire gave him out. He says, no, you're not out. Madonna touches the hand of the ball and it goes into the goal. He doesn't know. Nobody's wrong in this. Each one is living by his or her value systems. As long as you're clear about it. So for me, the first I, integrity, why it is who am I, the brand me. So this is where the marketing in me comes out very strong. I am clear, this is what I stand for. And why is this important? It's important because in life, as you go on, you will face these folks. And unfortunately, Google Maps, Auntie Google is not there to tell you which mode. You have to tell us. And that is why you need to be clear what are aspects of me that are non-negotiable, what are aspects of me that are negotiable. You know, I give a simple example in the book I've given. Imagine the plight of Tim Cook when 5 years ago, 3 years ago, that problem of the phone breaking, the terrorists killed, etc. I think he would have had a terrible time or he would have had a very comfortable time depending on the clarity here. The government, the world was pressurizing him saying, give us this because the world public is, you know, the security. And he says, do I owe my responsibility to the country or do I owe my responsibility to my customer and privacy? Both are right. Both are right. I owe my responsibility to the individual who's bought it. I also owe my responsibility to society. And it's tough to say which one is. You have to be clear. You act in one way, I act in another way, he acts in another way. Good luck to us. All of us, as long as we sleep well at night, there's no right or wrong. So people say integrity, you know, are we honest? I said, I'm not even talking about honesty. That's preaching. I don't preach. I'm talking about knowing yourself, period. So think about yourself. Think about who you are. You will face this, and it's not in a job. You will face this with your husband, your wife, your children, your friends, your society. People, you know, I was counseling, so I was doing some mentorship program last week for a person in an organization. And it was all job related. And then when I told her, listen, it's not a job related issue. It is manifesting itself in a job. But you're going to have the same problem with your husband, your daughter, your son, your friend. She says, yes, what you're saying is true. I agree with you. So, you know, we are as human beings, we cannot be bagged and compartmentalized into a corporate person and a husband or a wife. We are just people. It's like, that's why the salesman, you're caught anytime you're dealing. So first is integrity. My second eye, I feel very strongly in. And so first eye is integrity. My second eye is very simple. I say money can never buy you happiness. Money can buy you comfort. Money can buy you physical pleasure. Money can never buy you happiness. Only the people around you can decide whether you're going to be happy. And I said, if money could buy you happiness, and in my book, I've given examples of 4 people. I've given Ernest Hemingway, Marilyn Monroe, V.G. Siddharth, and Robin Williams. By any definition, these 4 people were rich, they were famous, they were successful, and they all committed suicide. And I said, if fame, success, and rich money could buy you happiness, they wouldn't have committed suicide. And therefore, there are far more reasons than that. And therefore, my second eye is what I call interaction. And this, for you generation, is very serious because you are in a world completely disconnected in a connected world. The social media, the smartphone has connected us like never before. And it has disconnected us like never before. I've got data in my thing. I don't want to bore you with data, but today people are suffering from loneliness like never before in the history of mankind. Women in England fear loneliness more than dying of cancer. This is the truth. Enough studies are being done. It's not nothing. Look at a simple young teenager. I do counseling. You said I counsel. Yes, I see this happening. I get a young boy, 14, 15, 16-year-old. What's happened? I'm terribly distraught. Why? My friends had a party and I was not called for it, but I saw it posted on Facebook. This was a very close friend of mine. I didn't even know about it. This guy's a mess. And he's a topper. This will lead to drugs, this will lead to alcohol, this will lead to chemical dependency. God knows what it will lead to. 30 to 40% of divorces in the West start with Facebook. It's simple. 70-80% of lawyers, divorce lawyers, use the Facebook for fighting their cases. Parents and children have stopped talking to each other. Husbands and wives have stopped talking to each other. Everybody's on a phone. Neetu Ganapati teaches eye contact. There is no eye contact anymore. You're sitting and everybody's watching a phone. You know, I used to joke with my son. I said, I went to dinner with my son. I go out and look at two couple in an upmarket restaurant, and this couple is blowing money, and each one is texting. And I tell my son, I said, why would they do something as dumb as this? Why would you come out, give money? And each one is texting. And my son, in his typical son's manner, tells me, you know something, they're texting each other. The problem with you is you're a dinosaur. You don't even understand. I said, okay, got it. But this is the world we are living in. People are getting up at, I got a friend in, I look at in the morning and I say, what are you doing at 2:30 in the morning? I got up to go to the toilet. I just thought, like, why would you want to look at messages? People go for walks with phones at 6 o'clock in the morning. Listen to the birds. Listen to the noise. Listen to a dog barking. Or just be with yourself. No. We were all given pacifiers. Those young children were given pacifiers which are stuck in your mouth. Today it's the cell phone. But that's not the point. I'm not saying a cell phone is bad. The point is spend time on people. In my book, I've given a lot of examples of what I personally do. And I do this 100%. Because I've learned again in my limited life that ultimately only people can decide whether you're going to be happy. As somebody said, I once remember a chief of army staff saying, nobody ever dies for his country. They die for his general. In the same way, nobody leaves a company, they leave their boss. And it's people. Marriages break up, children break because of people. So my second eye is people. Lots of data in the book, you can read it. My third eye, which is again important for this generation, and it's scary the way it's going, is we have become a chalta hai country. We have become a country which has made, unfortunately, thanks to management, thanks to my good friend Rishikesh Krishnan, who's the director of IIM Bangalore, very good friend, and he has written this book, Professor of Strategy, and he talks about Jugaad, the great Indian innovation. Jugaad is the worst thing that has happened to India. It justifies mediocrity. And we are classically, like all other things, we have made a virtue out of vice. The original thing of Jugaad was in North India saying you want to beat a system, but fikar mat karo sahab, Jugaad ho jayega. This was the original Jugaad. We think about it. Yes? Jugaad ho jayega, band-aid. We will circumvent the system. This was Jugaad. And today, you know, your management professors are singing hymns about what is called a Jugaad. Jugaad. We are not, they say, no, poor country. That is fantastic innovation if you have done something great. That's not a Jugaad. If I'm making a toilet for the poor or I'm making water for the poor, that is brilliant innovation. Jugaad is fixing something which was not working all right. That is Jugaad in mind. That was the origin of Jugaad. So we have become that, and your generation has become that because you are a cut and paste generation. You know, it's sad, all of us and veterans like all of the faculty. You sit in a presentation, the first slide has a typo. I can see this. I have heard this myself saying, you know, I said, all your effort is wasted. I stopped listening to you. I said, you can't even get your first slide right. I have sat in my class on communication. On the first slide of presentation, my name is spelled wrong. I don't know whether to cry, laugh, or what to do. But you know, the world is not forgiving. You're living in a world of competition. I can choose from hundreds of you people. You're like a soap, a shampoo, or a toothpaste on a shelf. You're no better than that, each one of us, not you, means all of us. If I don't select A and I select B, I'm not making a mistake. If I select a Toyota or don't select a Honda, I'm not making a big mistake. You have to prove yourself. You have to be there. And give it so my third I is involved. Put your 100% in it. Because that gives you the greatest sense of satisfaction. And that is why, whether it is a simple report, whether it is cleaning your bed, whether it is making your bed, whether it is keeping your kitchen, it's a personality trait. It's an attitude. It's an attitude. I remember there was a 4-star admiral. I remember this giving a commencement farewell speech to military students in America. And he says the greatest satisfaction you can get is, and the greatest thing you can do, you know, I could never convince my son till I made him listen to this admiral. And he says, make your bed in the morning and make it well. He says that is the way you start your day, with a sense of achievement. And I grew up in a place where we used to take pride on whose bed was made better than the others. You would have seen this. But I'm saying now, and we used to do this in our school because I was in a boarding school. And we used to compete with the next guy to say, my bed is made better than yours. And that's the way we started on it. So for me, the fourth I is involved. Put your heart into it. All of us want to be unicorns. All of us want startups for valuation. When I studied economics and when I studied business, we said a concern, an organization is an ongoing concern, some jargon like that. Today, our concern is about when somebody else is going to buy you. We can't do that. We can't do that because read the biographies, read Elon Musk, read Steve Jobs, read Bill Gates, read Jeff Bezos, read anybody, Narayan Murthy. When they started, 20 years they struggled, they didn't know where their next meal was going to come. You are seeing their $100 billion valuation 25 years after they went through it. And when they went through it, I don't think Steve Jobs, when he started in his garage in 1977, ever even dreamt of being a $3 trillion company. He just wanted his next product out for a happy customer. Period. Involved. So I think this generation, we are getting into cut and paste. So, I look at these fancy presentations. And I said, this presentation, you have to only thank, at the end of it, you have to thank Bill Gates for it. Because you have used all the bells and whistles of Microsoft PowerPoint. What is your contribution to it? And they're relevant. The fourth one, again, very important for this generation because you are changing. Most of you who are listening to me as students, I don't think you would have had Twitter when you were in the 5th and 6th. Maybe when you passed out of school, you may not have had an Instagram, Twitter. Your parents definitely did not have. Your parents would not even have had a cell phone when they were adults. And today we are living in a completely different world. The point I'm trying to make is you've got to be open to learning. So my fourth I is imbibe. Imbibe. Keep absorbing. Keep absorbing. If you don't, you're out of business. You're out of business. So there's a lot of data on this, a lot of work on this, but I will only take 2 small things. The first thing is, today, every time people talk about learning to upskill, learn one more program, I think you also have to learn to reskill. Many jobs will become redundant. Many occupations will become redundant. I mean, I learned to reskill from a corporate world to a teacher. I think it was a fabulous journey. I had to reskill myself completely. But then Prasad, always I thought I was a salesman and I knew the clarity I had to deliver experience. The medium was different. That's all. I did it through a washing machine. I did it through a motorcycle. I did it through convincing people or selling or whatever it is. But reskilling. And for young people like you, again, this is the lesson I've learned. What happens is, why are we not open to learning? As you grow older, it becomes difficult to imbibe. For a variety of reasons. The simplest reason are 2, 3. One is I am expected to know, so I can't expose my ignorance. I am a teacher. I am a faculty. That's why I keep telling my students, for heaven's sake, argue with me. Disagree with me. I need somebody to say I have another counterpoint. The boss, we all say, yes, sir, yes, sir. In India, we are even worse on this. So we all actually start believing we are invincible. So that's the first. And the second thing is, we actually start believing we know it. And therefore, we are close to this. So therefore, I am now from 5 eyes, I've got a 3H. What are the 3 H's you need to be open to learning? You must have a hunger, you must be honest, and you must have humility. So I believe that these 3 H's are important. I know I'm getting on to my time, so I'm wrapping up.
It's okay, sir.
And the last I for me is what I believe is probably the first eye and the last eye for me are the most important. I mean, all are equally, but like the chartwala, you can use whichever eye in whatever proportion you want to. But the 5th eye for me is very important because we are these fortunate people who are sitting in these lovely rooms and listening. And we are very, very much more privileged than millions and millions of people in this world. So there's a brilliant film. I love films, Man for All Seasons. I start with, I end with The Bucket List. Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman. I won't get into the story, but the sum and substance of it is 2 people are dying, and before they die, they're going all over the world. They're sitting outside the pyramids in Egypt, and one guy tells the other that one person, old man, tells the other. He says there is in Egyptian mythology, there is a story. And the story is that when you die and you go up to heaven, before you are allowed into heaven, they ask you 2 questions. The first question they ask is, how much have you enjoyed your life? You have to answer that. The second question, which hit me very strongly, is, how much joy have you brought to others in your life? And I thought that was a beautiful statement. And for me, the 5th eye is impact. What impact, what have you left behind in this world? And for me, it's very important because we are very lucky. The fact that we are sitting here on video conferencing, the fact that you all are studying in a college like this, the fact that you've reached a college like this, we are privileged more than 800 million people in this country. Forget about the rest of the world. And I think we have a responsibility, we owe it. You know, when Prime Minister Modi, it's not a political talk, but he said something in the All India Institute of Medical Sciences convocation, the first convocation he took after Prime Minister, and he made a very powerful statement to the graduating students, and I say this to everybody. And he said, the responsibility you have is, we are giving you money which should have been given for toilets and water and roads and electricity to others. We have diverted that money for you. You have to pay. And I think there's no better way to say it. So for me, impact is the last eye. And impact, I tell the management students, impact is not what you did in your job. I took market share, that's what you're paid for. You're no big deal. I read resumes, you know, in the early days, I used to read a resume and I used to get a complex. You know, you look at a resume, lifted market share, did so and so, convinced customer, distributor. I said, wow, this guy has done, and then I look at it, what did you work from? April 21 to March 22, 6 months, 8 months. Internship, I did all of this. I said, I haven't been able to do this in 15 years, you're able to do this in 15 weeks. I said, I must be useless. And then I realized a resume is what you're paid for. This is what you need to do. So my 5th eye is impact. And for me, my very simple definition of impact, measure of impact is, have I left the place better than how I found it? It's a very uncomplicated definition. So that is my 5 eyes. I'm good to close, and I've said it already earlier. Why do I want these 5 eyes? Is because in life you will be faced with challenges. You will come to roads. You will come to decision points. You will come to, should I do this? Should I do that? And there is no clear answer. There's nothing which is right. You could do this. You could also do this. But I know that I take this path and then I realize, no, this is not the path. Then like the GPS, I make a turn and I say, okay, let me get back to what I wanted. I believe we had the luxury, you people did not have less of that luxury. You have a lot of comfort, you have a lot of physical benefits, no doubt about it. I am not so sure that you have the same level of emotional, mental comfort that your parents and your grandparents had. And I'm clear about it, but I run a counseling group. I'm very clear about it. So that's my wrap up is please look at these, look at your person. These are not prescriptive. I'm not saying you should do this or should do that. Whatever gives you satisfaction. As I told you, I'm not saying you be honest or dishonest. You know that this is out. You want to say it's out. You say you don't want to say out. But are you comfortable living with it? Are you consistent? And that's all there is to it. And I believe these 5 I's are fairly neutral. It's about personal satisfaction. So this is my takeaway from this. This is what the book is all about. Ultimately, to sum it up, you are the chartwala. You have the ingredients. Use the ingredients in whichever manner you want to. If you believe at the end of the day, it will give you an acceptable chart, which makes you feel. Thanks very much. Thanks a lot.
Can we take a couple of questions?
I
from the students?
As you know, as you would have gathered, I'm sure not only now, but when you know me, most of us in management schools love to talk in any case. Now, in this side, you know, I love to talk even more, so I'm happy to take this.
Professor Kanadas, can you please curate?
Thank you. So the first question is from the participant. When people can feel our absence, is it our success?
If yes, it's a success if they feel the loss of your absence. If they're glad you're gone, then I'm not sure it's your success. Then it is their success. It's simple. If they are glad that you're gone, then they're successful. If they are unhappy that you're gone, it's your success.
The second
I almost sound like Sadhguru now. Without the ropes. Yeah, I hope we'll cut out all this. We are politically wrong things to say.
Sir, the second question. It's an old question in a new bottle. This is what the questioner has asked. Are leaders born or made or learnable? Your views?
I think everything is learnable. And yesterday I was doing a thought. I'll answer this in a slightly different way again. You know, this is another skill we learn in management. Whatever question you ask, I will give you whatever answer I want to give. It's like those Westminster series, you know. So, but let me look at this. See, I think there are certain characteristics that you can actually build. There are certain traits you need to. The question is in what proportion you have. If leadership in a startup requires risk taking, and you are not a risk taker, you don't have it. A leadership in a bank requires less risk taking and let's say more stability. So I think you need to look at I am scared of this word leadership. You know, it's a very, very, very open thing. So I would think, like all other things, leaders can be made, leaders can be born, but you must have the raw material. Okay. So I again would joke in a class. See, you can take goat's milk and make ghee out of it, but I'll never get a cow's milk ghee out of it. In cow's milk, I can get varieties of ghees, but the basic stuff must be with you. You know, there are some people who just don't want to be a leader, and I can't whip you to say, no, you must become a leader. So yesterday I had this question from another panel, and the question was, should we make our educational system, and this is good for management, I'm debating this in IIT Palakkad, should we make our children more risk-taking? I said, what's wrong if you're not a risk-taker? Why do we have a stereotype? Why should you be a risk-taker? I am by nature not risk-taking. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll go to a job that doesn't require risks. Whereas we are hammering, why are management schools not making entrepreneurs? Why, if I were an entrepreneur, I wouldn't waste my time in a management school. I would be doing something on the shop floor, like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. So we have a stereotype that if you want to do, you must be a risk taker, you must be outgoing, you must be an extrovert. No, I'm an introvert, I'm happy being an introvert. But if that introvert this is a question I was talking about yesterday with somebody, if that is impeding in my job, then I need to do something. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So that's the answer. There's nothing good about it.
Please mention the name of it.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
This question was asked by Next question asked by Dr. M.S. Sriram. The question is, what is happiness all about? Is it a prelude to success?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question also. Now, see, to answer a question, is it a prelude to success is tough because it depends on how you define success. So that's why I say if I define that happiness is success, then it's a prelude to happiness, or it's the culmination of happiness, of success. But happiness, as I understood it, so there are three words I will use in this. Again, I'm scared to use this because this is meant for these robed people with long beards and long hair. All these philosophical statements is not meant for a management salesman, like me. But as you grow old, you become philosophers in some way. So in my view, the word I told you is most of the times what we call happiness is what maybe psychologists and social scientists call pleasure. Pleasure is momentary, the trigger is from outside. So a grade gives me pleasure, a car gives me pleasure, a span or a great suit gives me pleasure, a prize gives me pleasure. Happiness is about something which is about internal. You cannot make me happy. I can only decide whether I'm going to be happy. You can give me pleasure, but you cannot make me happy or unhappy. I can decide. That leads to the famous book, and supposed to be it's a brilliant book, masterpiece. The third thing, which is what I've worded it differently, it's about having a meaning. So I believe, if you take the Maslow's hierarchy business, you move from pleasure to happiness to meaning. Meaning is going beyond. Am I doing something beyond myself? Happiness, I'm content with myself. The next thing is, so there's this famous book by Viktor Frankl called In Search of a Meaning for Life. And he says, finally, man is meant to find a meaning. So I would look at these three as the things. And you could define success in any one of them. I got my BMW, I'm successful. I may not be happy. Because I have a problem with my wife, I have a problem with my children, I have a problem with my boss. I'm successful because I got money. Why am I happy? Because he's jealous of me. So you see, that's another problem. No, this whole thing starts from expectation and envy. The whole thing starts, I didn't talk about it because it's too long, it will go on too long. It starts with expectation and envy. So that is where it is.
So the car is only for a physical pleasure.
It is a pleasure, and it gives me a level of pleasure because this guy was the topper in class. All of them thought I'm the dud. So he's still getting from Alto to Desire. And I'm doing the BMW. See how unhappy he must be. But he will decide to be happy or not depending on himself. The BMW cannot make him happy or unhappy. If he's got his act together. That's the point.
Next question asked by Dr. Riaz Ahmed. What is missing and the best thing about young professors and professionals?
What is
missing? And best thing about young professors and professionals?
There is such a vast audience, so many people. If you talk about the generation, I think the what is great about the generation is they have so much to look forward to. They have so many opportunities. You're getting so many brilliant, what shall we say, innovations from these young people. Today, 8, 10, 12, 15, 18, 20. Forget about professionals. Look at the kind of talent you have in music. These Indian Idol shows or this. 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 7-year-olds in any language, in any part of the country. I think we have a brilliant young generation. They will put. I think they're a big threat to seasoned professionals. I would think last 40, 50 years, it was a coterie in every part of the country of 5 or 7 people who sort of completely blocked the entry of genius. And today you see that they're your neighbors, they're in your next school. So I think this generation has got phenomenal talent. Look at the tennis court. Everybody, I watch tennis, badminton a lot. I don't watch the other games too much, but football. I am amazed at the talent, and these are the same generation who got brought up in physical comforts. They are the same people who got up in with technology. They were the same social media group, but they made something out of their lives. So that is the thing. And what is my fear is, again, you're completely disconnected. We are not looking at people as people. You must spend personal, quality, personal time. That means personal interactions. That's why I say in my book, I've given you, I know what I've done, and if anything has helped me survive these 40 years, it is just my need to talk to people.
Next question. Would you recommend the countries of the world to emulate and adopt happiness index as a measure of well-being over income index?
Yeah, this should go to United Nations. I am not here to discuss that, number one. Number two, this was asked to me somewhere else. You know, I don't know what the happiness index is, to be quite honest with you. Secondly, if you look at a country like America or a country like India, let's look at these two countries. Look at the diversity of the look at the diversity. It's not easy to say that a prime minister should look at happiness. Bhutan is one small little country. Come on, let's face it. It is not even the size of Mysore. I'm sure Mysore people are probably happiness indexes higher than Delhi people. So you can definitely get good happiness index number here and say, why can't everybody be like Mysore? You can't. Look at the kind of diversity, look at the kind of complexities. And again, happiness is what? The one in Punjab, happiness factors are different from the one here, virtually different human beings. So I don't see this. I think it's a lot of, personally speaking, I think it's a lot of, it's nice. It's like climate change, good to talk about politically correct subjects. But I don't know whether an administrator can do this.
Next question is from one of our students, Mr. Guru Pranesh.
Delete a lot of this.
Yes. Next question is from one of our student, Mr. Guru Pranesh. What are the parameters should we consider for our success? And do we think we are not focusing enough because we have a lot of content and resources at our disposal?
Guru Pranesh, first of all, thank you. You're the first student. At least one student is listening to me. So that's a great relief. What are the parameters for success? This is what I said. I said you decide what are your parameters for success. So if my parameter for success was to be riding BMWs and things, I could have done that. It was very simple for me. It was not a complicated issue. I was doing extremely well at age 37, 38. And I could have continued that. And therefore, okay, so I would think, and therefore, Guru Pranesh, my suggestion to you is as follows. Never set success parameters by what somebody else tells you. That's the starting point of it. See, this expectation and envy comes from there. Because he has got it and I want it. So, it's a very interesting, very simple three points I give you. When do you envy somebody? And therefore, when I get it, I feel successful. When do you envy somebody? You envy somebody when somebody has something you want that you don't have. There are three things. Somebody has something that you don't have. You want that something. And your not having that something causes you pain. So who do you envy? You envy somebody who's more to you. I don't envy Ambani. I envy Prasad and his BMW. Ambani is a more relevant. So you see, my success has been defined not by me. It's been defined by him. So Guru Pranesh, you decide what is success and failure. You decide your parameters for success. This is, I think, the fundamental. I'm glad you asked this question because there is no universal success or failure. For me, the universality is, am I happy at the end of the day? Do I go to sleep happily? Do I wake up looking forward to the border? I think that's the only litmus test I would do. Do I look forward to seeing my children? Do I look forward to going to the office? Do I look forward to meeting a client? Do I look forward to getting into a classroom? I think that's the only test.
Next question is from one of our staff, Ms. Rekha. Sir, being an academician come salesperson, family man, what gives you happiness personally? Do you think happiness makes you a perfect person?
No, it's so difficult to define happiness personally. That's what I'm saying. Now, since we're getting philosophical, let me give you philosophical answers. It's so difficult to answer what gives you happiness. It's just that I'm so comfortable with myself. I'm looking forward to this. I was happy coming here. I was happy coming here in 2007. I was equally happy going away. I had no sense of regret. I had no sense of loss, no sense of sorrow. I did what I had to do and I went through it. I left the corporate world. My friends are traveling first class. I'm traveling economy class. Okay, it doesn't matter to me. So I think happiness is so personal. So let me answer only one question. So when I went to the school, so last week, let us say a month ago, I get a call at 12 o'clock in the night or 10 o'clock in the night, and I get a call from somebody. And this guy was a student of mine in the 11th standard in Ooty. 11th standard in Ooty means in 2005 he was my student. He calls me in 2021, 16 years later. He's a major in the army. I said, hey, nice to hear from you. What's up? How are you? And he tells me at 10:30 in the night, he said, sir, I'm sitting on the line of control in Kashmir. I just got news that a friend of mine has been killed. I'm feeling terribly low. I just thought I needed to speak to somebody. I thought I'll speak to you. I don't need to do anything else in life. I mean, I have arrived. If somebody who was my student 15 years old, I haven't seen him after that. I saw him once somewhere. And at 12 in the night or 10 in the night, he's feeling low and I'm the only fellow he thinks of. Or I'm one of the people he thinks of. That's my happiness. His happiness is BMW. Nothing wrong in it.
I want to give a disclaimer now.
Nothing wrong in it.
I want a
No. See, so each one of us has that trigger, which triggers us. That's all there is.
Next question is from
Professor Sridhar. Happiness is the state of mind. Is it happiness derived from within?
Absolutely. There's nowhere else. That's what I'm saying. Pleasure is different, is given from without. Pleasure, I get something. It gave me pleasure. But happiness is what I desire. Absolutely from within.
the last question.
Yes.
Due to running short of time, we are asking.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Sir, at present in organizations, instead of extracting the potential and talent from the workers, lot of rat race is being created by the employers. What is your view about it?
You have HR experts here, OB and HR experts here. They should be answering this question. You know, I was telling Prof. Parshram, I got into one panel with HR managers the other day. You know, the problem is rat race. Yes. So I'll wrap this up. You see, it's all nice for HR people to talk about things, and it's not going to work, in my view. And I'm not an HR person. Because look at it as a very simple thing. You are working today. What is your goal? I told you, no, the minute you achieve something, that goal is no longer relevant. So what is happening in the corporate world? You're living on a weekly, monthly, quarterly target. So your corporate structure is destined to make you unhappy or uncomfortable. Happiness is within. There is a pressure to achieve a month's target. I have achieved that target. My boss doesn't give me anything. He says, what's next month's target? So I've achieved my next month's target. He says, let's look at the quarter. So you see, in my view, there are two factors. We were just discussing this in the morning. In my view, there are two problems that are going to be problematic in the corporate world. And I'm not an authority at all on this, but purely common sense and little bit of experience of age. One is, I don't think the corporate world is destined to reduce your stress. It's only geared to increasing stress. And that is why internally you have to be very clear about your genius. The corporation is not going to help you in any way. You will give you, they're talking about increments. I will give him, let's say Prasad is expecting a 15% increment. I give him 20%. He's thrilled till he realizes I got 25. You see, he got 5% more than what he wanted, but it still doesn't make him happy because I got 25. You see, you're playing a lose-lose game. The corporate world, in my opinion, it's over. Happiness, so for me, the happiness manager is your direct line operating manager because you're working for that person. I don't see a HR department doing anything, to be honest. The second thing you're doing, and I was talking about this, you're working offline. Your corporate problems will not be seen today, it's going to be seen 3 to 5 years from now. Because today I am online with people I already know. So I don't have a problem. Look at the trainees, look at the interns, look at the people coming into the organization. They don't even know. So what is happening is organizational work has become transactional. I have a video call, this is the problem, this is it, let's go. You no longer have a canteen chat, you no longer have a water cooler chat, you no longer have a pass by the table chat. You don't have any of that. And yet OB will, what will HR and OB say? People are the assets. You can't, you're not treating people as people anymore. You're treating them as one more Zoom number. So the corporation, in my view, is going to have a problem. Everybody wanted work from home, work from home, work from home. Now women are desperate to get back, I think. Look at the problems that an Indian woman has working from home. Terribly difficult. It's terribly difficult. It's not easy at all for a lady in this world to try and work. And we are lucky here in Mysore. Look at a lady working in Bombay on a one-bedroom apartment with 2 children in school. And the suburban line running across you behind you. You can't. It's, you know, you're geared for problems. And no amount of increments is going to help you on this. You know, that's the challenge. I think it's a challenge. I believe if HROD faculty here can address some of these serious issues and sensitize your students to some of those, I think we would be doing it. Thank you.
Now may I request Dr. Neetu Ganapati to give the vote of thanks for the annual leadership talk.
Not bad, I think we finished.
Yes, sir.
Huh? It was no. Almost. Let have documentary evidence that I returned your watch. This you don't have to remove from the video.
Yes, you can show it.
Thank you. It was very useful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so
Sir,
much.
you should be actually giving him 2 watches now. Like PC Sarkar, like you said. You didn't make it disappear, but you should have made it double. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. They say that gratitude is the best attitude. And I have the pleasure today of expressing our gratitude on behalf of the entire institute to a wonderful person whom we have known for so many years now as a leader of the institute years ago, and I've continued to be in touch and seen him as a wonderful leader and a great human being too. And sir, it's been such a pleasure listening to you.
Sure. Thank you.
So my gratitude first goes out to Professor Ramesh Venkateswaran, who has regaled us with stories from his life experience and has had us in splits for all of this duration. I'm sure all the students, guests, members of the governing board who have joined us this morning have found this to be extremely humorous and interesting. We're talking on happiness. And I believe laughter is something that makes all of us happy. And that's what we've been happy as a team, as students, as faculty, we've been extremely happy listening to you. What I have personally learned, a couple of things. I've been reading on happiness for a while now, and some key lessons that I've learned, most importantly, I feel, is what Sir mentioned a while ago. How do we define happiness? How much happiness have I given someone else? You're mentioning about the Egyptian parable. And here we learn about happiness as being something which has created an impact. And therefore, how happy have I made others? That's an excellent definition of happiness. And each one of us can take a lesson from that. Other point that I also have understood is expectation and envy are the main reasons for our unhappiness. And the example Sir has been given constantly. As soon as I set my expectations to something and they're not met, I'm unhappy. So happiness can be momentary if I define it that way. But if I define happiness to be long-lasting, to see what impact I can create on people, it can be something that lasts and leaves me with a happy feeling always. So these are 2 important lessons that I have learned. And then also that if I'm happy, I'm successful and not the other way around. Because success we define in terms of what society tells us is successful. Maybe a car, maybe a great job, maybe a great home, a great family, but maybe those don't give us happiness, like sir was mentioning in so many of his examples. So sir, thank you so much.
Thank
You've made us
you.
laugh.
Thank you all.
You've given us so much happiness. Thank you so much, and wishing your book great success in
What
time
I've
to
given
come.
you is pleasure.
Yes.
Happiness.
No, happiness too. Right. Thank you so much. Next, my thanks goes to all the members of the governing board who have joined us online. Thank you so much for being with us, sir. We also have the alumni and members of the press. So alumni, all of you who have joined us, I'm sure you found it to be a wonderful session. Thank you so much. Members of the press who are here in person or have joined us online to cover this event, thank you on behalf of all of us at SDMIMD. Our students who have joined us from their comfort of their homes, the safety of their homes, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure you found the session to be useful. Finally, my colleagues, faculty and staff who have made this entire event possible, and like sir was saying, we began this journey sometime in 2008 in his presence here. It's been great to have him back on campus and listen to him. To all my faculty colleagues and colleagues from the staff, thank you so much for making this possible. The annual leadership talk, as you know, is an annual event, and we will be back with it next year. Till then, wishing all of you great happiness, good health, and safety. Thank you.